welcome. This is India Tonight. I'm Shabani Gharat, and joining us from our Delhi studio is my colleague Sumita Karir. Now, Sumita, the fear of shortage of commercial LPG cylinders is gripping India and specifically the hospitality sector amid escalating West Asia conflict, disrupting supplies through the Strait of Hormuz. Hotels and restaurants in major cities are sounding the alarm. Bengaluru hotels began shutting operations from March 10, with associations warning widespread closures. Chennai, Mumbai and Kolkata report similar disruptions. 20% of Mumbai's eateries already closed and up to 50% at risk in days if supplies don't resume. So this is a real crisis, isn't it, Sumita?
Absolutely, and Shivani, and that's essentially what we're going to discuss with our guests tonight on the crisis, the energy crisis that seems to be impacting India as well. This crisis, remember, it was triggered by US-Israel strikes on Iran and has now led to irregular deliveries and panic. Now, commercial cylinders, 19 kgs, face acute crunch even as domestic supplies are prioritized. And this threatens higher food prices as eateries pass on costs or limit menus. Now, the government has invoked the emergency powers under the Essential Commodities Act, ordering refiners to maximize LPG output and diversify imports. And of course, we have a good panel of guests joining us this evening to make sense of these developments that we're seeing in India currently. Ashutosh Karnatak, former chairman and managing director, GAIL India Limited, is joining us. Sagar Daryani, the president of NRAI, is joining us as well. Along with both of them, Deepak Singh Gehlot, he's a senior vice president, Federation of LPG Distributors of India, is also joining us. Let me come to you first, Sagar. Of course, you have written to the Petroleum Ministry as well, seeking some sort of an intervention. What we've seen in Bengaluru, in Mumbai, of course, there are several restaurants that are suffering on account of the shortage of LPG cylinders. But what is it that close to 500 restaurants under NRAI are telling you at the moment, and what is it that the government should prioritize?
So, Sumita, the situation at the ground level is quite grim. It's really, really bad. I mean, the NRI represents over 5 lakh restaurants across the country, and more than 85% of them depend on LPG commercial cylinders. Now, there was this circular that came out yesterday and also on the 5th of March that said that this major supply of LPG cylinders should be directed towards domestic consumption. And our take here is that, the reason for doing, shifting into domestic consumption is that people can, cook their daily food, get their daily intake of food. But, we should also remember that the restaurant industry is an essential service, and many people in urban areas, many people living in, hostels, in PG accommodations, depend on restaurant food for the daily intake of food. So it is an essential service. And for us, not getting LPG cylinders, we cannot cook. If we cannot cook, we cannot operate. So, it just puts a pause to our operations, which is going to risk a lot of going concerness of the sector, as well as maybe lead to a lot of job losses. And we are very, very scared, I would say. And I don't feel shameful saying that we actually are scared that, our operations are going to come to a standstill. There are restaurants in Bangalore, in Chennai, who will just stop operating from today evening, tomorrow. It's quite a bad situation out there, to be honest.
Absolutely. Let's get over to you, Mr. Gehlot. Just help us understand. Also, we have seen the black market prices escalating massively, and market syndicates, black market syndicates are selling, what I'm reading, cylinders at 1,500 rupees plus. So what is the Federation doing, or what are they doing and working with the law enforcement bodies to ensure that these black market players are not taking advantage of this situation?
Well, you rightly said that the government has put a stop, I'll say stop on the commercial supplies. We should understand that the total consumption of LPG in India, only 40% of this is produced in India, 60% is imported. And out of that 60%, almost 95% is imported through these from these Middle East countries. And all these supplies are stuck there. So we should understand that the supply line, there's a shortage. Now, for government to take such a decision, they have to prioritize with whatever are the available resources with them. So with this, I think the government has taken a decision that the domestic LPG supply takes a priority over the commercial LPG supply. Though I fully empathize with the hotel owners, the restaurants, the factory owners. Of course, their operations are going to be hampered with this kind of a decision. But the fact is that the government has decided to give priority to the domestic consumption of LPG, and to safeguard what you just mentioned as black marketing, there are various measures which have been taken under Essential Commodities Act, and these measures are like the first thing they did was to restrict that the connection, the refill booking would be done only after 25 days of the supply of the first cylinder. So this is one check which will stop people from ordering excess cylinders in the market. Secondly, since the Essential Commodities Act has been evoked, any kind of a misuse, mishandling of cylinder and diversification is to be registered under Essential Commodities Act, which is a very, very stringent act which will act against those people who are trying to misuse these provisions. Number three, all the supplies being done by LPG distributors. We have also advised the distributors to supply cylinders to consumers only against the authentication code which is provided to them. It is the delivery authentication code. We call it as DAC, or even in normal language, we call it OTP. Only after the consumer gives an OTP, the cylinder can be supplied. The systems are all controlled by the oil companies, and they are centralized. And so it is only to minimize the chances of any kind of a misuse or black marketing as is normally thought about. But in any kind of a shortage,
Mr. Gehlot, and we'll have to see.
Yes.
Right, Mr. Gehlot, we'll have to see how that sort of policy move really plays out over the next couple of days. But let me also get in opening comments from Mr. Karnatak. Mr. Karnatak, now the government has taken a couple of steps in the past 8 to 10 days or so. We've been seeing that the government is holding daily meetings with industry stakeholders and with the stakeholders, and in fact the government has now also invoked the Essential Commodities Act. The government has also in the past stated that there are no immediate concerns and we have enough stocks. Are you satisfied with the government's response to this crisis, and how have we handled the previous crises that this country has dealt with?
Yes, generally it happens like this only. First of all, you have to take the stock of the situation. Secondly is to do the reduction measure which are not the priorities area. Third is enhancement of the production. What I say is that maybe the refinery and other plants where propane and butane is generated, they should not be used for the petrochemical, they should be used for development of LPG. And fourth is enhancement of the production capacity of all the LPG plants throughout India. And of course, fifth, that try to find out the more import sources like Australia, Canada, maybe Algeria, maybe other non-Gulf countries from where we can import. And as per PPAC, we have signed one contract with US around 2.2 MMTPA of MTA of LPG. So we should try to get sourcing. Generally, I explain this energy as AAA. A is availability, other A is accessibility, then third is affordability. At this moment, maybe affordability may be a question to like restaurant people. But yes, the availability to the domestic, that is a priority of government. So I think what they are doing, they are on the right track.
Tell us, I'm staying with you, Mr. Karnatak. Help us understand, how long can India's current strategic gas reserve sustain if, the Strait of Hormuz remains to be closed for much longer? And then, my second part of the question is, given the heavy reliance on Strait of Hormuz, why has the development and also the things that you mentioned, which is accessibility, availability, and reaching out to other sources, have not been worked upon for LPG in a similar way where, it has been worked upon for the crude oil?
Yeah, I think, but see how you are saying this. Generally, the ministries have a good risk management plan. What we say, the what if analysis they have to do regularly. If it happens, then what if they will do. So see the imported Hormuz Strait where around 80% of your import is stuck. What the government can do now? Government cannot do more than this. And government LPG storage, it is not like oil storage which India is having. So whatever import, in fact, 33 million we are importing. Out of that, 62% it is through that Strait of Hormuz. So we are stuck there.
Right.
Now, what to do? Only way to do is, one, make it available through other
Absolutely,
sources.
sir.
Through other, and number two,
Absolutely, we should have diversified. We should have diversified a sourcing of energy and not really waited for this crisis to balloon.
Correct.
But let me ask you a follow-up question, and a very important one that Sagar raised. He said that due to the government's policy around priority being given to domestic consumption, the restaurant segment is getting impacted. There are job losses. There are several restaurants that are on the verge of closing, and restaurant sector is essentially an essential service. Do you think that the government could have handled this crisis differently, and of course given some sort of a balance as far as domestic consumption is concerned, and of course consumption by the restaurant sector?
See, I'll give you a very fair, maybe a judgment sort of thing on this. Now, wherever the natural gas is available, all the restaurants should have got them connected with the pipe gas. So at least they could have, and maybe the dual burners are there where LPG and natural gas both can work. So they should have done this. Now, with irrespective of that, see, since LPG is shortage, so whom you will give priority? Priority you will give to the domestic. Right. Yeah.
Right. Let's get on to Mr. Daryani. Sagar Daryani, if you can help us understand what is, what is the increase in the operational cost of like a mid-sized restaurant after this hike since March 7? And, are you hearing from your members that are any particular eateries reducing, the cooking intensive, or, are they tweaking the menu to reduce dependence on, these gas intensive dishes also on their menu? What are you hearing from the members?
So, firstly, I slightly differ with Mr. Karnatak, because we cannot let what ifs and what buts lead to loss of livelihoods, right? I mean, talking about the PNG lines, that is also something which the government needs to develop the infrastructure. Today, I think some parts of Delhi has it, but if you go across the country, it's only the malls and the commercial establishments that have it. So, obviously, we need to work hand in hand to build infrastructure, but the primary job is of the government. Now, my take here is that, we are not even thinking about cost right now. That is secondary. How much does the cost go up by? I think that yesterday there was black marketing happening in Bangalore where the cost of cylinders was 2x of the original price. That is not a problem right now. The problem right now is that we are not able to operate. And if we are not able to operate, forget costs, our entire P&Ls will fall, our businesses will fall. You will see a very high mortality rate in the sector. And, what do you do with the kind of livelihoods? There are so many people who have daily wage earners, through the food service industry. There are so many gig workers who are dependent on the food service industry. It's going to impact food delivery. So the larger picture here needs to be looked into. Also, I don't get one question that how can food service be an essential service during COVID when, we've risked our life, we've kept our restaurants open, we've gone out there, we've delivered food, we've cooked food, and, it become a non-essential service in such times. I mean, you cannot be selective in calling us essential and non-essential. I mean, that's my question to the government, because that really puts us in the back foot. I mean, we've been asking regularly and rigorously for some kind of an industry status. I mean, today we have a problem. We have to go to commerce and industry. We have to go to food processing. We have to go to finance ministry. We don't know where to go to. We keep knocking all doors. We are waiting for one ministry to come and, adopt us. So it just puts us, I mean, I don't get why do restaurants always get this secondary treatment.
Right, Sagar, that's a fair point in terms of, the number of ministries, the number of bodies that you're expected to approach to find a solution to this very crisis that the country seems to be going through. But I'd request all you gentlemen to kindly hold on to this chat, because we have to cut across to these ground reports that my colleagues have filed from different cities. Let's take a look at these reports and then we'll get back to the discussion.
ET now has reached on the ground to assess the situation of LPG cylinders, and what we have been told by the delivery agents till now that yes, there is a time which is taken for the delivery, and normally it could have taken a day or two, but now it is taking at least 8 to 15 days. Sir, कितना time लग रहा है अभी इस सिलेंडर को जो डिलीवरी होने में?
टाइम लग रहा है अभी तो फिलहाल हमारे एरिया का कम से कम 15 दिन लग रहे हैं.
15 दिन. So I am there at Wadala currently, where you heard that it is taking at least 15 days for delivery of these gas cylinders. For of course hotels, the situation is completely stopped. But government has not said anything that there is an official ban for commercial booking of something. But even for the retail, the time taken is 1 to 2 weeks, which it is taking. If you book the gas today, it will take at least 2 weeks to reach. Now the situation has deteriorated ever since, especially after Sunday, after the closure of the Straits of Hormuz, and whereby the impact has been there on LPG cylinder. Everybody is hoping that the time may be reduced so that the LPG booking and the reaching time at home can later on it can decrease.
We're bringing you this report from Chennai-based Geetham chain of restaurants, Mount Road branch. And although a restaurant like this may seem packed to the rafters and quite full, don't quite be deceived, because a pall of uncertainty has gripped the restaurant business, not only right here in Chennai, but across the state of Tamil Nadu. A severe LPG shortage has meant that it may not exactly be business as usual here in the days ahead. For a start, a grave uncertainty has descended upon restaurants, much like this one, with owners and also multiple association bodies telling me that a short supply in LPGs may mean a curtailment to service and possible suspension of operations across the state of Tamil Nadu. In fact, the Chennai Hotels Association has said that nearly 10,000 restaurants across Tamil Nadu may suspend operations as early as tonight. Back here at Geetham, service usually runs till 2 a.m. But owing to the LPG shortage and uncertainty with regard to future supplies, the restaurant has said that services will end by 12 midnight, thereby ensuring that stoves are turned off in an attempt to conserve whatever supply of LPG is present at the restaurant itself. However, many say the greater cause for concern is the lack of awareness or knowledge with regard to how many supplies will last in the coming days, and that is perhaps the most worrying aspect of the ongoing LPG supply across restaurants in Chennai and the state of Tamil Nadu.
All right, so those are some of the ground reports that my colleagues have been gathering with respect to the LPG supply situation in the country. And let me come to you, Mr. Gehlot. Mr. Gehlot, are you receiving ample communication and clear communication from oil marketing companies regarding supply timelines? And secondly, how have your consultations with the government gone, given that this crisis, it seems that it's going to be a protracted one?
You're right that there is a problem with the hotel industry and the commercial LPG market. However, we must not forget that there are 32 crore domestic LPG consumers in the country. And these 32 crores, probably government cannot risk creating any kind of a supply shortage with these 32 crore LPG consumers across the country. That is one part. Secondly, when you say that what government has taken as steps, government has already put an embargo on booking after 25 days only. That means practically one consumer getting one cylinder every month. Thirdly, there may be a shortage. It depends from place to place. There are some plants which are able to supply on normal daily basis the domestic supplies. So the normal backlog in most of the places which have come to us is 7 days. And this 7 days is mostly taken into account that first of this month was a Sunday, second was a Holi, third was a Holi, especially in North India, fourth was a Holi. So these 4 or 5 days backlog had already developed. Plus, the moment you announce that there'll be a booking embargo only for 25 days, there is a panic booking. So normally, if a LPG distributor was getting 500 bookings in a day, and he started getting 800 to 900 bookings in a day. So please understand that, therefore, the backlog is increased. People started probably storing extra LPG cylinder with them with this fear. But we must not forget that eventually there is a shortage of the product. The product is not there. And government has no option except to prioritize as to where to use this product and to whom to facilitate. Maybe the Strait of Hormuz opens up, it's fine. But as was rightly said, it's not easy to procure and source LPG from other places also, because logistics of LPG is totally different. You cannot just pack it in a container and ship it in any normal ship. LPG container ships are different. They have to procure it. It takes time. Plus, LPG is also an outcome of the refineries. So whatever they can do is increase whatever production with the existing refineries in the country. And I think that is one thing which government is sincerely wanting to do. So we do not doubt the intentions of, though this is accepted fact, that we should start, we should probably, all of us, should put our switch on a restart, reset button, because just think of a situation when LPG is not there around us, what all of us will do, even as domestic consumer or as commercial consumer. This needs to be thought of. It is as good as setting a reset switch while we were
setting a reset switch is important. Let's, I'll get back to Mr. Daryani over here, and he spoke about how, you know, it's an existential crisis now for some of the restaurants. But in India, there is also like an unorganized sector of these, you know, street vendors and hawkers, and, you know, like, how are they, you know, how have they pushed, you know, probably towards illegal or unsafe gas usage because of, you know, the kind of shortage or the fact that they can't afford it, you know, at the prices at which it is going?
So, you know, I think the food service sector, you know, employs about 8.5 million people. That itself is huge. And, you know, if you look at the unorganized food service operators, I think that will also be massive, maybe 3x to 4x to what we employ, right? And for them also, you know, it's going to be hungry stomachs, you know, it's going to be, you know, loss of jobs or loss of livelihood. I mean, you can still afford to sell tea or sell coffee, but if it comes to real food, how do you cook real food without LPG, without gas? And maybe some people will, you know, resort to the you know, to coal, etc. But that's going to be very limited in today's day and age. I think everyone's gone just more modernized. They've got better equipments. And even for restaurants, you know, if we have to shift to electrical equipment, it's not easy. You know, it's not a switch on and a switch off. I mean, restaurants are not designed to operate equipments. We need to have more power load, you know, to apply for excessive power load, get the new power load. It's going to actually cause a halt in operations. And your kitchens are designed in a way where you have stoves, you have chimneys, etc. And how do you change that entire infrastructure? So it's not going to be easy. I mean, you know, reset is easier said than done. But yes, obviously we will have to do something about it. But to be honest, I think, you know, I understand the perspective of, you know, providing LPG to households so that the domestic food can be cooked. But, you know, we have to also consider the people that are employed by this sector, which do provide food. I mean, why not have a balance, fine balance, where both domestic and commercial for restaurant services at least is provided, where we can maintain that fine balance so that livelihood is protected. At the same time, people get food.
Absolutely. So that fine balancing, that needs to be worked out. Sagar, just one final question before we wrap up this discussion. My question essentially to you is, in terms of what have your conversations with the Indian government been? You have written a letter to the oil minister at least twice. And what is going to be your next plan of action to sort of resolve this crisis somehow before it balloons into an even larger one?
We've written to the ministry, we've written to the chairman at the Indian Oil Corporation. We are scheduled to have a call with IOCL, you know, authorities tomorrow. We are expecting a reward from the joint secretaries and the different authorities at the petroleum and, you know, natural gas ministry. We're talking to other ministries, whether it's food processing, whether it's industry and commerce. I think we've got all our, you know, hands on in braving this, and I'm hopeful. And I'm quite confident that the government in the past has been able to, you know, support, if not let fall the entire industry. So I'm trying to find that fine balance. we are putting in. I mean, like I say, you take one step, we'll take 11 steps, but we need that one step to be taken. So for us, I think it's very, very important right now to protect the safeguard and the ongoing of the industry, which is a big question mark today. And I think fingers crossed. I hope we come out of this. I hope we get some relief. But yeah, we will be striving hard to keep our persuasions alive to get some kind of a relief and some kind of a diversion of commercial LPGs towards our sector.
Absolutely. I hope there is some relief and there is some sort of diversification as well. On that note, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Karnatak, Mr. Daryani, and of course, Mr. Gehlot. Thank you so much for providing your insights on this topic.
Thank you.
I've got a file.
Well, on that note, it is time for us to slip into a very short break. You don't go